everyone, got my Pink Floyd t-shirt, got my black David Gilmour Strat replica that I built, got my hat because it's cold in Canada land. That was David Gilmour, obviously, and Pink Floyd with the solo to Time from Dark Side of the Moon, coming in at a very well-deserving number 21 on Guitar World Magazine's Top 100 Solos of All Time. God damn, do I love this solo. The tone and the expression and the feel and the bends, the creativity within the minor scale, it all adds up to one of Gilmour's finest, most recognizable and most well-known solos. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that no guitar player in history could pull more creativity and emotion out of the natural minor scale, which this solo utilizes, as well as the minor pentatonic that David Gilmour used a lot. Just a remarkable guitar player, obviously. This is like the third or fourth solo I've learned for this project, and while technically or from a standpoint of speed, they're not particularly difficult to play, though they're difficult to play well. Accepting the fact that one's note-bending skills have to be absolutely on point, and that takes a lot of time and a lot of practice. But for me, it's his creativity that impresses me the most. Just an incredible ear for melody and finding ways within the scale to weave some of the most gorgeous and memorable solos ever conceived and recorded, like this one. Comfortably Numb, Money, just on and on and on. I don't know how many times while learning some of his solos did I think, how the hell did he come up with that? Or, I wouldn't have thought of that, but, then again, I'm not David Gilmour. There are just some absolutely brilliantly constructed solos, including this one especially. Just goes to show that you don't need to be blazingly fast or a technical wizard to be considered one of the greatest guitar players of all time. That said, what you do need is an otherworldly sense of melody and creativity to take just 5 or 6 notes and turn them into beautiful and lyrical pieces of soloing magic the way Gilmour does. And like I said, of course, you also need to be an absolute master of note bending. Bloody hell, there's a lot of bent notes in this one. I didn't count, but I'm pretty sure there are more bent notes in this solo than unbent notes. Last week I did a video talking about the ins and outs of note bending and how important they are, and you can check it out below if you want. I'll put a link down in the description box. Now, some of the things that I say to an experienced soloist, some of the things I say may be self-evident, but for the beginner or intermediate player, they may not be. In particular, this idea, of which Gilmour is a master, finding which notes to bend for maximum expression. So I'm just going to rehash a few of the ideas that I touched on in that video right now. So we're going to start in the minor pentatonic. And the minor pentatonic, the scale, the full scale, has 12 notes. But the actual pentatonic scale only has 5 notes. The other 7 of those notes are octaves of the other of the 5. There's not a whole lot of note bending going on up here on the top 3 strings. You can, of course, but a lot of the majority of note bending goes on the bottom 3 strings. So we're going to look at the bottom 3 strings of the pentatonic. 5 notes. 14th fret on the G string, 12th fret on the B string, 15th fret of the B string, 12th fret of the E, 12th fret of the E string, 15th fret of the E string. Those are the 5 notes of the pentatonic. Which of those notes can you bend? Well, you can bend all of them. There are 3 key bending notes within those 5, the notes that any soloist knows. Now we're in the E minor pentatonic right here in the 12th fret position. 15th fret of the G string. 14th fret of the G string. 15th fret of the B string. 15th fret of the E string. Sound a little wonky. And those are 3 key bending notes. But a lot of people forget about these 2 notes. 12th fret of the B, 12th fret of the E. They can be bent as well. You can bend any note in the scale as long as you're bending it up to the next note in the scale. So, and like I said, in the pentatonic you have 5 notes. And those key 3 bending notes, you're bending full step up to the next note in the pentatonic. But these 2 back here, the one at the 12th fret on the B string, that can be bent as well for a lovely expressive bend, and David Gilmour uses this a lot, but that one has to go up a step and a half because the next note in the pentatonic is right there. So that one you have to bend a step and a half. Same thing with the 12th fret of the E string. Lovely expressive bend. That one has to go up a step and a half. So you see, all 5 notes of the pentatonic can be bent. Don't limit yourself to those 3. And get those 2 in because they're lovely bends. Now, when you're working in the natural minor scale, which Gilmour is soloing in time, you're adding notes. You've got 7 notes in the natural minor scale. 14th fret on the G, 12, 13, 15 on the B, 12, 14, 15 on the E. And again, I'm not showing the whole scale. That's the whole scale. I don't know how many notes that is, 18. But we're working on the bottom 3 strings because the majority of the bending is going on in those strings. Now you're getting into, in addition to the 3 or 4 or 5, the 5 notes from the pentatonic that you can bend. Those 5. You can now get into half-step bends because you're adding notes into from the pentatonic into the natural minor scale. So now you can take that 12th fret on the B. You can bend it a half step because the next note in the natural minor scale is at 13. I bent that a little too much. 14th fret of the E string, you can give that a half step bend because the next note in the natural minor scale is at 15. You see what I mean? Every note within whatever scale you're working in can be bent as long as you're bending it up to the next note in the scale. And that's key to adding expression to your playing by bending notes, of which David Gilmour is an absolute master. Just a few ideas there for you to play with if you're not an experienced soloist when it comes to bending notes. Now, on to this guitar. I've been waiting a while to use this guy. After I did the solo to Money last year, I thought I need a Gilmour Strat because who doesn't? So instead of buying one, because I'm cheap, I built one. I picked up this black body, I think it's from a Squire, on my local marketplace. I ordered this lovely maple neck online off Amazon. Dropped in a Graphtec nut, put in a roller string tree, put some tuners in that I had kicking around, put a fake Fender water slide decal on it because I was trying to build a replica. Put some pickups from a high-end Squire. I think it was a classic Vibe Alnico 5 pickups in this, nice white knobs. Sawed off a whammy bar. I think it sounds good, and it plays really well. It's hard to tell how it sounds with this solo because this solo is so drenched in effects. But I think it sounds good, and it plays quite nicely, but it sounds good. Speaking of effects and the tone on this one, I did my research as I usually do. The website Gilmourish is absolutely incredible if you haven't seen it. It's one guy's absolute obsession with all things David Gilmour. It would be a bit creepy, actually, if it wasn't so incredibly rich in Gilmour information. Information that I needed for this solo. I used Bias FX 2. For the tone on this one, if you're curious, I always use Bias Effects too. Two cranked Fender twin reverb amps, fuzz face and boost, and a little compression in front of the amps. Touch of chorus after. I don't think Gilmour used chorus, but I like a little touch of chorus in almost everything I play. A little bit of reverb and lots and lots and lots of delay. Two delay pedals actually, one set at 330 milliseconds, the other at 440. Plus I multi-tracked the guitar 3 times, which I believe Gilmour did as well. Basically what that means is that I recorded the solo exactly the same way 3 times. The final track, and the one that's boosted slightly louder than all the others, is the one from this video, the performance in this video. I think I got it pretty close. I'm pretty happy with this one. Like I said, lots of bends and lots of vibrato. Lots of bends with vibrato. 2 important keys to Gilmour's style. Not really easy to replicate. Is he driving that note really fast? Is he bending it slow? Does this one have vibrato? Does this one not? Is that a bend and release and then another bend? This time only a half step. Is this bend a slow release or a fast release? Lots of questions and lots of practice to nail this one down, to get it sounding right and close. But I think we got there. I'm happy with it. Spent a lot of time with this one over the past few days, and many hours simply working on the tone, which was a lot of fun. Anyway, that's all I got to say. That was a long one. Hope you enjoyed that one, and we're down to number 21, which I'll have up in a couple of days or maybe within a week. You guys take care of yourselves. Hope you're well in your little guitar corner of the world, and we'll see you next time. Ciao.